Guys, welcome to Real Talk. It's a pleasure to connect with you through the I Love Seaville network here on a Friday morning, chilly, blustery Friday morning across Charlottesville and Central Virginia. Real Talk is an insider's guide to real estate across Charlottesville, Albemarle County, and Central Virginia, powered by Keith and Yonna Smith and the Yes Team Realtors, also powered by Roy Wheeler Realty Company. Keith Smith on location on the West Coast doing some a keynote presentation today on affordable housing and kind of a snapshot of what the Thomas Jefferson Community Land Trust is doing here in Charlottesville. He's also, as he put it, gaining some knowledge to bring back to our market. So we'll kind of give him some props and some kudos here in a matter of moments. First, I think Judah Wickhauer, our director, we should welcome Michael Guthrie to the show. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning. Glad to be here.
I love this. We have a good dynamic.
Absolutely.
How are things going?
Things are good. Things are good. I'm happy to be stepping in for Keith and Yonna this morning. They're doing their thing. You know, we talk a lot about giving back to the community and this whole question of how can we serve, and Keith's on the West Coast representing Charlottesville with the affordable dwelling unit conversation, which is a big topic here in Charlottesville, and Yonna is right down the street at the Paramount with the TEDx talks all day long. She's been volunteering with that for a number of years, and she's moving up the ranks. She used to be the greeter at the front door, and I think this year she's actually welcoming the speakers and making sure they're comfortable and ready to go. So happy to be here and sit in their place while they're doing good things.
Thank you, Ray Cadell, for sharing the program. Caitlin Mancini, welcome to the show. Thank you kindly for joining us. If you'd love to leave a comment, put it in the chat box of any of the 12 Facebook pages. We'll relay it to the CEO, Michael Guthrie himself. Cindy Profit giving you some props. Joyce Shoemake.
Yeah, Joyce Shoemake.
Shoemake.
Yeah, she was a realtor with me up in Northern Virginia. Fantastic. If you're looking for somebody to help you up in the Northern Virginia area, Joyce is top notch.
We'll start with the open-ended question for you. Q3 report, your thoughts on what you saw there?
Yeah, I mean, anybody that's been watching, reading, listening to what's been going on over the last couple of years, the trend is continuing. The good news is that the market continues to be a little bit better than the quarter before. The year over year, we're still really struggling in regards to having enough to sell. So when you look at the market report and you see the Charlottesville area not quite as, it looks as vigorous or with vitality like it's had, I think it's more that there's just not enough out there for people to buy. But there's a lot of encouraging things in there. Median sales price continues to go up, just slowly, nothing gradual. I mean, nothing off the chart, just a gradual
$6,700.
What's that?
It was a $6,700 increase.
Yeah. And so just percentage points. But you're also seeing, again, just as the outline of the scenario, you're seeing the outlying areas beginning to pick up some activity. If you remember last time, a quarter before, Greene just had a phenomenal second quarter. And a lot of that was due to Ryan Homes building a product that was in the right price, and folks drove out that way and liked it. But now, I mean, they still had a good increase. I think it was 10% year over year, but not like it was the year before. I mean, the quarter before. But then you look at Nelson. Nelson is really starting to come along, which it's probably been the area that's dragged the most. And you and I have talked about this before. That whole 150 Fun road that goes between 250 and Wintergreen has just become an extraordinary destination place. And now people are wanting to live there because there's enough going on there that they can go out there and not really have to come into Charlottesville or go over to Waynesboro for the weekend because there's so many different opportunities. So Nelson County, and particularly Stony Creek, that Stony Creek area has this resale aspect of Stony Creek has lagged behind for a number of years. And just over the last few months, things have really picked up there. There have been multiple contracts on houses, and that would probably be my sleeper. If we're talking about an area that folks might want to look at, not from the existing home, although that'd be great, but there's a lot of land out there, a lot of lots out there, and you can get a good deal on a lot with a mountain view and still be 30 minutes from Charlottesville, and hang on to that, or build something that would be nice size but reasonably priced. So that's an area that if you're thinking about doing something as far as building, Keith and Yonna have people on their team that know that market really, really well. And I would tell them to reach out to Keith and Yonna and have somebody go out and tell them to take a look, because it's a real nice price range right now where people could get in, and Wintergreen Resort as well. There have been a number of different things when you look at the numbers. Wintergreen continues to lag behind in regards to pricing and things like that, but it's because they've had 2, 3, 4 different things that have kind of knocked them off kilter. I think they're primed to really have that pick up, and there's some really good opportunities there to buy a little condo if you're a skier, or you just want to get away for the weekend and like in the summer and not be quite as hot as it is down here. So
one of the things that excites me as a small business owner that's in the business-to-business space, there were 1,300 plus jobs, more jobs in our marketplace this time versus last time in 2018. So 1,362 more jobs in the car footprint between March 2018 and March 2019. That's a good sign. I think we both know, and many of the viewers that are watching know, we're somewhat insulated to national trends because of the University of Virginia offering us some protection and some, kind of making the foundation for our economy locally a stronger than perhaps what we're seeing nationally. With jobs comes income and comes people looking to plant roots and buy homes.
yeah, and I would say you're absolutely right. When the market started to drop down in 2006, it took us 6 years to get to the bottom, whereas Northern Virginia, they went like a rock. But just like a basketball, you drop a basketball from any height, and it's going to bounce back up to that height, right? The real estate market's similar. Northern Virginia dropped really hard, but then it bounced right back up. We gradually went down for almost 6 years until we finally had reached the bottom. And so now we're in that gradual, salad bowl, gradual incline. And I think one of the reasons that's true for Charlottesville is not only the University of Virginia and 2 wonderful medical facilities and the different things, but because it's become such a destination place with the vineyards and the breweries and the distilleries and all the music and
Our favorite basketball team,
lacrosse. I mean,
Right.
you take your pick. But the point being is, there are a lot of people that are coming down here to buy a second home or a home that they're going to rent out for a while and then retire here. And so it creates somewhat of an inflated price point here in Charlottesville, because you have people that have come from an investment background or whatever, and they have money and they want that house, and so they buy it. And they're not the person who's 2 jobs and trying to make every nickel count. And so you have a situation where you can buy a house here, and if you bought that same house, say in Richmond, it'd probably be 20-25% less. And that's our capital. That's the state capital. But that's because of the insulation that you're talking about and all the wonderful reasons for having a place here.
Your son says, happy birthday week, Dad.
Thank you.
He's
Thank
watching
you, JM.
right now.
Yeah.
Andrew Silver, the former owner of Zocalo Restaurant, is watching in Texas. Barbara Lundgren, welcome to the program. Jim Hamlet, Megan Siegel's watching over in Nelson County. Joyce has a comment for us. She says, thank you for the kind words, Michael.
Absolutely.
She says the outlying areas in Northern Virginia are something to watch. Beautiful Shenandoah Valley views, historic and lovely Winchester, my hometown, listed by Forbes magazine as #9 best small city in the U.S. to do business. Lots of downtown redevelopment going on, merging with historic Walking Mall and Old Town Winchester. Thank you for that perspective. Caitlin Mancini says, Michael taught MMM at our business meeting this week. Excellent, excellent, excellent. What's the MMM acronym?
Yeah, so I've been really kind of focusing in and trying to encourage my agents to have this attitude of, one, how can I serve? And giving back to the community, but how can I serve my clients better? And so we've been talking about culture matters. And for lack of I come up with these different things, maybe just because it helps me remember things, but culture in my mind is creating unbelievable loyalty through unity, recognition, and empowerment. And the MMM is about making moments matter. Each and every day, are you making the moments that you have matter? And not just personally, making sure you have time for yourself personally, but in the engagement with clients and engagement with the community, whether it's a nonprofit. What am I doing today to make moments matter in a way that I can really say, I'm serving. And so we're really talking a lot about that because I think they go hand in hand. And Caitlin's a great example of somebody. I think she's going to be on the show next week with Keith, but she's a great example of somebody that understands giving back. We're the winners of the YPN bowling deal
that
the other day.
You had phenomenal form.
Thank you.
Someone snapped a photo
yeah.
of you just bowling.
Yeah.
You had the leg kick.
Yeah.
Balance was impeccable. I was impressed, Michael.
Well, thank you. And I was really impressed because, as folks know, with my Guillain-Barré recovery, balance has been one of the things that and so when I first picked up the ball to start bowling, I thought, I wonder if I'm going to be able to do this. But we had a great time, and it was kind of a Roy Wheeler as well as former Roy Wheeler team because it was Caitlin and John Updike and me.
And Alex.
And Alex Tiscornia, and then Carl Garrett from Movement Mortgage, shout out to him. But then we had David Sloan and Aaron Manis, who both were with Roy Wheeler before they started their own company in Charlottesville. We had a blast, and it was fun to win and enjoy it. It was a really good crowd, and we raised a fair amount of money for Sarah. So that was a great event. But Caitlin does that. She's involved with the Toy Lift, with SPCA. Another great example of somebody who's just given back, but at the same time offers that same kind of service to her clients.
Ray Cadell says, Michael Guthrie, you're a great guy, great broker, great community member. I often learn something just following him on social media. Christopher Eagle from Real Estate 3 is watching the program. Lori Brannick, Lauren Woodruff watching the show. We have agents from Nest Realty watching the show. This portion of the program, thanks to our friends at Pearl Certification.
Absolutely. Good
doing
folks.
Great things.
Yeah. Joseph Gentile is a phenomenal guy. You're going to see more and more Pearl Certification in the marketplace because as the new homes that they got certified, years ago, as they come back on the market, you see more and more, Pearl certified homes, which will become a selling point for sellers to say, hey, there's 4 houses in my neighborhood, but I'm the only one that has the Pearl certification, and meaning that energy efficient and those kind of things. And Joseph has been a great addition to that group. He's been a great support, and I think that everybody, whether you're thinking about new, making sure that home is Pearl certified, or you have an existing home, you should have them in to see what you need to do to put yourself in that place to. And what it's going to do is, one, it's going to give you a better quality of living in your home, but ultimately it's going to be something that's going to really help your
Gives the
marketability
agents
of the
something
home.
to leverage, to market.
Yep.
Bellamy Brown, welcome to the show. Ron Gantz, hello. Throw this to you. Do you see a soft spot after doing your thorough analysis? Do you see a soft spot in the market through that Q3 report?
Well, not exactly. One spot that you do see, you have to look at new construction, which you have to really dig into the report and look at your own things to understand that. But new construction still is the gorilla, if you will. 1 out of every 5 homes that closed in the third quarter were new construction homes. And what that means is when you look at that median sales price that Judah was kind enough to put up a little bit earlier, it's really not existing home. It's not really that high because the new construction median price, I think, is $468. Mm-hmm. So when you have 1 out of every 5 houses selling for $468 on the median, then the overall median sales price is pushed up. So if you take the new construction out, you're back in the 2s, which is important from a standpoint of affordability. People say, "Oh my gosh, it's over $300,000. We can't afford it." Blah blah blah. I had a lender friend of mine send me some information this morning that I think is helpful. I did a report. It was on the news the other night, and we were talking about the shortage of rental things in the marketplace and we were actually specifically looking at Crozet and Old Trail, and I even went across the mountain to try to really gauge it, and how few homes are on the market for rent is pretty extraordinary, and there was nothing that you could rent for less than $1,200. Okay. And so I just thought about it because I knew I was coming on the show to do this for Keith and Yonna, and the $1,200 rent would buy you a $250,000 loan. If you could afford a $1,200, and that's principal and interest, you have to add the taxes and insurance in, but you could afford a $250,000 loan. If you have a $1,500 rent, you're over $300,000 for a USDA rural loan in this marketplace. And what I tell people all the time, especially young folks who are thinking about buying for the first time and have been renting, is you can get into a new home, not new home, but an existing home, for the same amount that it would cost you to get in for rent, because USDA Rural has no money down. you can get the seller to pay closing costs. There are other loans like that. And with no money down and you got $1,500 for your security deposit, you got $1,500 for your first month's rent. Well, what a lot of folks don't know is when you buy a house, the first month's rent is in arrears. So if you buy a house on, what are we on? We're November, what's today, 9th, 8th, something like that. On the 25th of November, you buy a house, you're only paying for the last 5 days of the month because the interest is in arrears. So you really get in for the same amount with no money down, seller paying closing costs. You have a $1,500 a month, you're willing to do a $1,500 rental. You can buy a house for over $300,000. Most people don't realize that. And then when you take in VHDA was brilliant. Virginia Housing Development Authority, they're really doing things to try to encourage housing and buying houses in Virginia. And when we went to the standard deduction a couple years ago, a lot of folks say, well, I don't need to buy a house anymore because I don't need the mortgage interest deduction. Well, VHDA has a tax credit program where if you get a VHDA loan, a percentage of the interest that you pay throughout the 30 years of the loan, you get a dollar for dollar tax credit, which is better than mortgage interest deduction. And so I think that's the word that needs to get out. The misunderstanding, I think, in the marketplace is I need a lot of money to be able to buy a house. It's not true. Yeah, the more money you put down, that's better. But if you don't, just to get in the game, just to have something, and what I tell people all the time again is when you're buying that first home, and you're going to pay $1,500 a month, make sure you can rent it for the same amount. You and I have talked about this before. Your villa at Southern Ridge.
That's right.
You still own that, right?
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
And so
free and clear.
Free and clear. Yeah. We worked with a couple a week or so ago. They bought a house from us several years ago, and as we were looking at what they were going to do next, I found out they've already paid off their house, and they're going to keep it as a rental. And that's what I want to encourage people to do. Get in for as little money as possible, but get in at a price, even if it's not quite what you want, get in for a price that when you want to go to the next thing, you can hold on to that and add it into your financial portfolio.
You're getting props from Rob Woodside right now.
Rob's a good man.
Rod Brunel watching the program, Dutch Schwab.
Go Irish, right, Rod?
Yeah. We watch very closely with what your daughter's doing. We have some questions coming in. This is from Kevin Higgins. He says, I enjoyed the show. I'm curious of what your guys' perspective is on what is going to be the next Crozet. I'll give a little background for those that are watching. Crozet, a sleepy little town some 25 years ago, now a hot spot thanks to Old Trail, thanks to Pro Renata, Star Hill, its proximity to the epicenter of employment, Charlottesville, Virginia. Kevin Higgins wants to know essentially, if we're trying to predict where the market's going, what is going to be the next hot spot like Crozet?
So I think the only thing that Kevin left out, and Kevin's absolutely right, but the only thing he left out is that there are a lot of people that live in that Crozet Old Trail area that commute over the mountain because Augusta Medical Center is a thriving medical facility, and you've got other things going on. Hershey over there just added a bunch of, they're expanding and they're going to add a bunch of jobs and things like that. And you're seeing that because you're seeing some of the bigger builders now over in the valley, which they hadn't been for, Ryan Homes is now over there, Atlantic Builders is over there. But in answer to Kevin's question, I personally think it's Spring Creek. And again, when I'm talking about a bigger community. So when you think about Old Trail and Crozet, it's a big community. And obviously the Downtown Crozet initiative is going to be extraordinary once that gets going. But the reason I say Spring Creek is that Spring Creek reminds me a lot of Old Trail in the early days where they're trying to find their way, they're trying to have infrastructure, they're trying to have the amenities that people need to have. And a lot of folks don't realize that what really turned the corner for Old Trail was when they put the Village Center in and when they built a clubhouse for the golf course. And now people didn't have to go someplace else to be entertained or get coffee or whatever the case may be. And I think Spring Creek is getting there. It's an extraordinary golf community, one of the best golf courses in the state. And you're starting to get some different and nothing, no disrespect to IHOP, but I can remember when
it's thriving first, outside the gates.
Right, that's right.
Yeah.
And it was before. And really, the only place you had to eat was IHOP, which was right there by 64. And slowly but surely, there's a lot of stuff. And Tavern on the Green, right there in Spring Creek, is a wonderful place to eat. And so one of my little things, and anybody that has heard me talk about before or listens to my radio show or whatever, one of the bonuses about Spring Creek is your commute. The sun is behind you coming into Charlottesville and behind you coming home from Charlottesville, was you're coming from Crozet and Old Trail.
You know this firsthand at your Roy Wheeler office.
Absolutely.
It blinds you.
It's right in your face.
Right.
And when it's right in your face, I mean, you literally can't see anything. I just noticed it the other day coming from my house, which is north of town. We were going someplace late in the afternoon. I came up over a hill, and now that the sun is setting lower earlier, man, that thing hit me. And if there had been anything, and we have thousands of deer. If there had been anything in the road, I would have hit it. And the folks that are coming in from the Old Trail Crozet area deal with that every day. And it's why you hear about so many, I personally think it's why you hear about so many accidents on 64, because people are buzzing along and they come up one of those hills and they're not ready for it. And it hits them and somebody has slowed down and boom, you've got the chain reaction going.
We have some more questions coming in. We'll get to these shortly here. I want to highlight Greene County. I see a lot of, and you've touched on this already, I see a lot of opportunity as someone who likes to dabble with real estate myself. I see a lot of opportunity in Greene. I have a lot of friends that are moving to Greene that are potentially unable to afford the Charlottesville and Albemarle County markets. Greene is still a very close commute to Charlottesville. My friends say, look, we have a 20-minute drive. We're getting real estate that's 30, 40% less and bigger homes on larger lots. And also one thing that they're talking to me about, I'm a young dad, they're young parents as well, the school systems in Greene have come a long way. So maybe in some ways we're seeing some trends and some similarities with Greene now, as we saw with Crozet. One of the things that really drove a lot of parents out to Crozet was the fact that the Western Albemarle school system is phenomenal. Your thoughts on the Greene market?
So the Greene market, I just this morning, I was reading in the paper, they had a 50% voter turnout.
Right.
In Greene County. 50%.
Right. Nelson County was flirting with those numbers too.
Yep, absolutely. And Nelson County, has pipeline and those kind of things that everybody's, it's sort of like, it's the Western bypass version.
Right. The pipeline has galvanized the community to get civically
one way
engaged.
Or the other.
Exactly.
One way or the other, right? And Greene County, I was stunned. 50% of the folks turned out. And the reason that, first I was surprised, and another reason I wasn't surprised, is it's a tight-knit community. It's a community that really cares about who they are. The only reason I say Spring Creek, when you ask me, is that I don't really see Greene as kind of Greene is a county, right? I guess you could think about Standardsville. But I think, from Spring Creek, again, just one other thing is it's not that much farther to Short Pump from Spring Creek. So you get kind of the benefit of the western part of Richmond as well as Charlottesville. But Greene, the community loyalty that's there and the fact that, it's kind of like, everybody knows your name kind of scenario. So, and people don't know that until they get out there. And the same thing, now that they're, like you said, with the schools. I can remember when I first came here in 2005, that wasn't the case. But the more people come out there and the more tax base they have to do the things, and they've done, I think, a great job of creating the infrastructure along 29, but kept the rural, what everybody loves about Greene County. The farther you get west, the more it's just like it always has been. And so they're trying to, really keep the industry and the different things like that in that kind of place. And then I haven't paid attention to it recently, but I know that they got a grant and they're redoing the Standardsville Main Street area.
That's right.
Which, look at what's gone on in Scottsville, and Scottsville is in some ways thriving again because of that scenario. I think you're going to see the same thing with Standardsville as they do that upgrading.
We have some more comments coming in. We're going to get to them. First, let's thank some of our sponsors, Michael. And one of the co-owners is watching the program now, and Jason. This portion of the show, Michael, thanks to Marie Bett. We love Marie Bett on Rose Hill Drive.
Absolutely.
Also, Petite Marie Bett on Water Street. One of our favorites, Michael Guthrie.
I just got to meet the folks at Marie Brett, the owners, the other day at the SPCA Critter Ball. We just got the privilege of sitting at their same table. I'd never met either one of them. It was an extraordinary evening. It was great to meet them. They're neighbors of friends of ours. My wife Dottie had a great conversation with them. And, it's a great place. It's a great story. It's another great example of a business that just wants to give back to the community, wants to do what they can do to make Charlottesville a better place to be. And, we've talked a lot about that, Jerry, just how that is just continuing to be the case over these last couple of years where people are hungry to help do good things versus tired of seeing the divisiveness. And they're a great, the two of them are a great example of that.
Ryan Ferguson, thank you for watching the show. Joyce wants me to emphasize to you that Roz Spoto is watching.
Oh, wow.
She wants you to know that. We got some questions coming in. Wesley Amons, thank you for watching from Duck Medic. Sean Joyce, Andre Xavier, CEO of Seaville Hop-On Tours. Chris Fitzwater watching the show. This question coming from Mr. Marquise Johnson. Guys, can you talk about this topic here? Why are we seeing so many locals either pushed or encouraged to the Waynesboro market? And what is the impact that the university could have on this market where it's going to build dorms for second years, potentially taking away customers for some of the bigger companies that rent houses and apartments across Charlottesville to second years? So two-part question.
Yep.
The Waynesboro market and UVA in second years, requiring second years to live essentially on grounds in some capacity.
So the Waynesboro area,
it's hot.
It's hot. I wouldn't say that they're pushing people there. It's just, again, the price range, that people can't afford to be in Old Trail or Crozet or in the western part of Albemarle. And so they're making that decision that they're going to drive that distance to get like you talked about earlier with Greene, a larger house on a bigger lot, those kinds of things. The only thing that I would tell people, the caveat to be careful about if you're going to do that, is gas prices. Right now, gas prices are great. I think it's because of my dad. My dad always used to look at the gas prices when he went by the gas stations he went to, and I've kind of do that now. And as I drive down 29, the Kroger gas station right there in front, it was at $2.23.9 for regular for weeks. I'd never seen it stay the same for so long, and I noticed today it was $2.19.9. So it had gone down 3 cents. But the point being is, use Culpeper as an example. When people Fauquier County was no growth. And Fauquier County said, we're not doing it. And it was almost like these fires in California where you try to dig a fire line to try to keep the fire on this side of the road versus on that side, right? Well, that's what happened. Fauquier County was sort of that fire line. And the wind blew too hard, and it went right over Fauquier into Culpeper. And Culpeper just exploded. This is back, unfortunately, in 2004, 2005, when things were just going crazy because, again, prices were going up, people were willing to drive out. But then gas prices went up, and Culpeper just got hammered because they had all this land and people starting to develop, and nobody wanted to buy there because of the cost of having to drive back and forth. So that's the only thing I would say to people is, as you're looking at Waynesboro, it's a great place. You just want to be careful about, make sure you budget a higher gas price when you're thinking about your monthly costs, so that in case that does happen, you're not in a situation where you can't get back and forth to work every day. The second question was, what was the second?
It was, so UVA.
Yeah. So that's
requiring second years to stay on grounds.
I think it's awesome.
You think so?
I do, and here's why. I think Jim Ryan is doing the right things. He's trying to engage the community. He's trying to have university be more of a partner in the community than it's been in the past. I know that because I've been in meetings where the university is very well represented and is communicating that. Here's what I think.
I'm excited to play devil's advocate with you on this.
Yeah, great. So I think that you look at flats at West Main, you look at Graduate, you look at those places along West Main. It's great, and everybody's got a bedroom and everybody's got a bathroom and all that kind of stuff. But the whole point of the second year is, I think, what's going to happen is that Charlottesville is going to recapture the 14th Street Venable area that has all these old houses that 14 people live in with one bathroom, and you got to get past the tradition of that, where people want to do that because their brothers did it or their sisters did it or their fraternity brother did it or whatever. But if in fact they create good dorms that second year students can make that decision versus being pressured into renting something within weeks of when they come into the university, I think what's going to happen is that those houses, they won't be able to rent them at the price that they've been renting them. People move back into the dorms, and now you have a situation where those investors who have been using those for rentals for a long time would put those back in the market, and hopefully families would buy those.
So you're saying it's going to free up housing stock for locals at affordable prices because the students that are otherwise using mom and dad's money are going to stay on grounds, and then people that live in Charlottesville, locals, can then potentially go to these homes.
It goes back to what we've talked about before in regards to having to change some zoning regulations, right? So let's just say, for the sake of discussion, that I'm right.
Okay.
That the new dorms bring more people in, therefore there's not as much demand. And the landlord finally says, okay, I'm going to sell this. I just don't want to fix it up. I want to sell it. If we get the zoning down through 14th Street, like you and I have talked about in regards to Park Street and Locust Avenue and stuff, and you keep the coolness of those houses, those old houses, but you make them 3 or 4 units each.
Yeah.
Now you've got this whole new deal where people are having the ability to walk to the corner, all along West Main Street because it's going to be all developed. It's going to be a really cool thing if, in fact, we can get that zoning so that, and it would be the perfect time to do it because these houses are all they're old, right? And so it'd be the perfect time to do some rezoning and give people the incentive to let's fix these up, let's sell them, 2 or 3, 4 units in each one, and having people be able to live along 14th Street between Preston Avenue and the corner for $250,000 or whatever the case may be.
That'd be great.
That'd be awesome.
It would be awesome.
And I'd love to see that would that the dorms being built would be the catalyst for making that happen.
This topic hits close to home for me. I lived in Lambeth as a second year at UVA. Also lived on 14th Street my 4th year. Another topic that I think that we need to highlight with this is with the flats at West Main and some of these higher, more expensive apartments that UVA students are renting their second years. What it's creating is almost like a community of wealthy students that can afford, basically whose parents can afford them, Michael. And it's not creating the diversity that Jim Ryan and the university stand for. It's creating pockets of wealthy students living in the flats because the flats are extremely expensive. And it's basically, and in a lot of ways, it's basically like compartmentalizing rich kids and then the kids whose parents aren't deep-pocketed are staying on grounds.
Yep.
And as a result, you're not getting the diversity that we want at UVA.
Right. No, I think you're right. I mean, I think that's true, that you've got situations where...
My dad basically told me, he said my second year, he goes, and this was 2002, okay? He said, there's no way I'm paying $1,500 a month for you to live off grounds. Go to Lambeth.
Yep. Well, and for me, it was different, and I was one of 6 kids. And I literally worked my way through college. I don't know why I did it. I think my parents would have helped me more if I wanted to, but I literally paid my tuition. Now, I think my tuition was $500 a semester. It was unbelievable. It's 1971, so it was a long time ago, but that was a lot of money to me. And so I became an RA in the dorms my 3rd, 4th, and my graduate school year.
My brother did that.
Worked at the intramural department. I had an assistantship at the intramural department, so I literally worked my way through college. I was one of the founding University Transit bus drivers. I was the first fleet, and I was one of the first drivers, drove the 6 to 9 shift every morning, Monday through Friday. So I kind of worked my way through the, that, but I understand what you're saying, and I guess what I'm saying is that if, in fact, the demand is not there, then that would help offset what you're talking about because the prices would have to come down because more second-year students are staying in the dorms.
What are we talking, like probably 2,500 to 3,000 potential renters
I think
that
so.
are not going to go
That's
into housing and going to stay on grounds?
Yeah.
That's impactful.
Yeah, no, absolutely right, and they're going to be nice, and so they're going to have the same, stuff, amenities and stuff. Maybe not. They're not going to have workout areas in them and stuff, but they won't need it because they'll go across the street to AFC or
Exactly.
wherever they're going to be, and if they need another one, they'll build another one. That's the one thing about colleges and universities and private schools is a lot of people give you money to build something. They're just not too excited about giving you the pens and the legal pads and those kind of things which people need to have for a day-to-day basis. That's for another conversation.
Sure.
But the point being is they have the ability to do what they need to do to make that happen. And I think Jim Ryan and his staff are committed to it. I think they really want to be a good neighbor. Not that they weren't a good neighbor before, but I think they're just more engaged
stepping it
than
up.
I've seen before.
Right. Ryan Stewart Ferguson's watching the program. He says this is phenomenal content. I'm enjoying the program right now. We have some more perspective on Zion's Crossroads that we're going to get to from viewers on the show. Bonnie McCann. She's the agency owner at Goosehead Insurance in Palmyra. She says, guys, Zion's Crossroads is developing fast with new broadband, public water, and sewer on the Fluvanna County side. We're very excited about this. Keith from Portland says, Zion's Crossroads follow-up fellas, Stony Point and Chris Henry just approved a 600-unit mixed-use project. There are 2 others of the same size and scope in the pipeline. Keith, thank you for chiming in with that perspective. Mr. Johnson says, thank you kindly for answering my questions, Mr. Guthrie. A question coming in here from Chris. This question is about the Scottsville market. Guys, I grew up in Scottsville. What does Mr. Guthrie think of what we can do to make Scottsville vibrant again? Good question right there. Scottsville, a sleepy little town of roughly 500 residents. I'm a big fan of James River Brewery in Scottsville. We know that the tire factory that was previously a source of employment, no longer there. I would think, and you follow this very closely, I would think one of the things that we need to do with Scottsville is drive employment and jobs to the community so people are willing to stay in the community and continue to invest their dollars in the community. His question is, how do we return Scottsville to a vibrant community, Michael?
So, and if that, I don't know, is that Chris Long? Is that the other Chris Long?
No, that's not Chris Long, but okay. I know who you're talking about, the real estate agent.
Yeah,
Logan Foster.
Yeah, and he's been involved down in that area for a while, so I was thinking it might have been him.
He used to be the mayor.
Oh, well, that's really involved, isn't it?
Yeah, he used to be the mayor.
So, I think what's happening in Scottsville is going to what they're finally doing. I think, and again, I'm way on the outside looking in on this, but having friends that are involved, I think the movers and shakers in Scottsville, the people that are politically active at this point, have finally realized that they need to change the zoning. So they are doing things to allow people to sell their properties with division rights, so that other entities can buy this, and then they can, whether they're going to do a bed and breakfast or whether they're going to do whatever. And so I think there's new entrepreneurial opportunities down there because of what you just said. The problem with Scottsville, and just calling it like it is getting there is not easy.
Right.
You got that 2-lane road. And I don't see it ever not being a 2-lane road, at least not for the foreseeable future. And so you've got to, like you said, the James River Brewery is an awesome place, and you can get right on there and do the rafting and those kind of things. And it's a neat little town, and they've got festivals and farm markets, and they got all those different things. It's just you got to really want to make a decision. If you don't live sort of in that area, you got to really make a decision. Okay, we're going to go to Scottsville today, right? It's not like a last minute thought. And other than that, I think that they're doing what they need to do. They're trying to bring new people in by giving them opportunities to buy things and do the business on the lots in the ways that they want to do it. That ultimately will bring more people, which will cause more people to want to be there.
Ahmad Hawkins, welcome to the program. Aaron Johnson, welcome to the show. Chris Jensen, Real Estate 3, thank you for joining us. Michael, this portion of the program, thanks to Mike Bittrick and his team at First Heritage Mortgage.
Yeah, absolutely. Great group of folks. They do a really good job. They do a really good job in all aspects of mortgage, but they really have done a super job in regards to working with builders with construction to perm financing and things like that. Mike's got a great team of folks. I don't want to start naming names because I'm going to forget somebody, but Mike and his team do a really nice job. I think they've got a really good reputation in the marketplace for not only giving you a competitive rate, but giving you great service.
Holly Lee from the city of Charlottesville. She's doing great things for local economy and small business owners. Thank you for watching the show. We appreciate that, Holly. David Bruton watching the show. Jack Queen, they're giving you some props right now. Give it a like and a share. I count 6 different real estate firms watching the show as we speak. How about the Louisa and Orange County markets? A little further along, extremely affordable housing stock. To your point, you're going to potentially erode some of the margin that you're going to save on purchasing the house through your commute, wear and tear in vehicle, time spent in the car. A lot of deals to be found in Louisa and Orange potentially. Your thoughts on those markets?
Well, again, the what would that be? The south part of Louisa. Obviously, the water is critical. The fact that the Fluvanna and the Louisa County working out the water and however they work it out. I mean, I think everybody wants it to work. It's just a matter of how do we get the water there now, and certainly understand the sensitivity to where they want to put the pumping station.
Yep.
And that's delayed things, but I think it's delayed things for the right reasons. You got to figure out how to do that and be sensitive to history and the people that have been on that land for a long, long time. If that water thing gets worked out, like we said, the Spring Creek, the Zion Crossroads area, of Louisa is just going to do quite well. As you go up north 15, through Louisa and into Orange, again, you're just getting a little bit farther out, and it's just going to be a different dynamic. Because I always say that if an area is going to thrive, that means everybody that goes in that area wants to live there. And so if you take a 1 out of 10 scenario, if 10 people go there and 10 people want to live there, then things are going to appreciate, and more things are going to come because more people are going to want to be there. With every person that says, oh, it's a little bit too far, or I don't like to drive those kind of roads, or I can't imagine that they're ever going to have a grocery store that's big enough that I'm going to be happy about. Whatever the thing is, a lot of people it doesn't matter, but anybody that does, then you've got less people that are going to want to be there. The Gordonsville, that's a great little area, and they've got great things, and yet when you look at their streetscape, it hasn't. They've lost some businesses there, and even though they've spent a lot of money to revitalize that, it's just a little bit farther out for somebody who's going to be living there and day to day. Now, if you're retiring and you want a second home, and it's okay to be that far away from Richmond or Charlottesville, gosh, Gordonsville, Orange, and then on the outside of that, people don't realize how close Lake Anna is to Charlottesville. And more and more people. I mean, I'm just stunned by the prices that people are purchasing homes or even lots in Lake
My buddy
Anna.
I play racquetball with, he's a mortgage broker, president of the company. He is purchasing homes in Louisa for $145.
Whoa. Yep.
$145,000.
Yeah. Yep.
And he's in turn, he's essentially creating a real estate portfolio, renting them out. He says the rents cover the mortgage and then some. And he says there's plenty of stock at the 145 price point.
Yeah, and again, I'm guessing that you're looking at that homes were built in the 50s and 60s is
That's
what
right.
I'm going to guess. And so you've got that, sort of after World War II into the 60s type of rambler type of house. Probably has a quarter to half acre lot.
That's right.
And so yeah, that's an great example of something that needs some work. And just shows the difference because you look at that at $145,000, and then you look at Fry Springs, you get that same house in Fry Springs, you're probably
$450.
or at least double. I mean,
Yeah.
The 145s I'm guessing are, from a square footage standpoint, are equal to sort of the smaller properties, but probably double what it would cost you to live in Fry Springs.
A lot of comments coming in. We're going to get to these comments shortly. Let's thank some of the sponsors. Bill Tucker, Charlottesville Settlement Company. We've had him on the program. Charlottesville Settlement Company, a trusted partner in the buying and selling process, Michael.
So we actually, Roy Wheeler Realty Company has been a joint venture partner with Charlottesville Settlement almost since I got here. I really believe in the one-stop type of servicing, that if I can have a really good partner on the title side and have a good partner on the lender side, and I've got a great realtors providing service, that doesn't mean that people can't use whoever they want, absolutely, but I just find that when you have those partnerships, and Bill Tucker and Charlottesville Settlement are a partnership like that I have sort of an inside track because we're partners, and so if something's not going well, I can reach out, or if I just need a piece of legal advice, I share something with an agent, and when they leave, I go, oh gosh, was that real or not? And so I'll say, Bill, this is what I just told my agent. was I right? And thankfully, most times I am, but sometimes he said, nah, you might want to think about this. He's incredibly responsive, as well as Katie West at Charlottesville Settlement, who runs that for them.
She was on our show. She's fantastic.
Yeah.
Makes it approachable.
Absolutely.
Understandable.
Absolutely. And so there are a lot of good choices in Charlottesville, but I'm grateful that Charlottesville Settlement is also a sponsor of my radio show. So they're engaged in the community, and they want to do it the right way. And the nice thing about Charlottesville Settlement is, even though it's a closing company, so therefore it's different than going to a real estate attorney. They're owned by real estate attorneys. So if any questions come up in the settlement process, Katie's got Bill Tucker and Larry McElwain, and there's just a number of folks that are partners, attorney partners with them, that you have that legal advice available to you if you need it.
Cynthia Hash has a good question for you. Cynthia Hash, the owner of the Cynthia Hash Fine Homes team. She says, Michael, it's great to see you on this program, and in such good health. As you guys know, I'm a realtor and associate broker, and I've seen problems with gentrification in Seaville because of historical overlays. Investors have their hands tied often with the inability to completely renovate or tear down and build more useful housing stock. Jerry, please pass this along to Michael. I'm curious of his thoughts on this topic.
Well, you and I have talked about, and Cynthia, I appreciate the kind words. Yeah, I'm getting much better, slowly but surely. You and I have talked about this before. That's a tough go. And again, it goes back to the long-standing zoning regulations that really need to be addressed and looked at, and I think they will be. I think with the new folks that you've had on the show that just got elected, I think a number of those folks have a real desire to see that. It's been very tough, especially in the city, to do those types of things, and I get why. They're trying to protect the aesthetic aspect that makes Charlottesville special. I'll give you a great example. The building that we're in, Cynthia, over on Dryden Lane, was the manor house for all that property, east to Birdwood and west past Boar's Head. And when Caleb Stowe ended up owning that building, and he started renovating around Ednam, detached houses, villas, condos, the last thing they were going to do was that house was going to be split into 4 units, similar to what I've been kind of talking about, separate entrances, but that when you looked at the building, it would look exactly the same from a historical perspective. And because it was on the historic registry, and because the county really didn't like it, he didn't get that done, and that's how we ended up being able to buy the building, is that when he couldn't do it, he had already built a house, and because he actually lived in the building for a while, he built a house, and it just felt like his time was up, so Roy Wheeler ended up buying that building, I think in 1994. We've been in there, I think, 25 years. But the point being is that's a great example of the fact that historic registry would not allow somebody to do that, and so there's going to have to be some compromise. We've talked about again on this show this whole attitude of, I think, again, people are tired of divisity. They hunger for doing good, and one of the places that we're seeing it is, instead of NIMBY, not in my backyard, it's now there's this new term called YIMBY.
Yeah, yes in my backyard.
Yes in my backyard. The people are saying, yes, I'm willing to sacrifice. I'm willing to compromise if we can make a difference. And that's what it's going to take, and it's not going to happen overnight. I'm excited that I think Albemarle County has really stepped up just in the last few months and said, we got to be engaged in this. And so the Community Land Trust that Keith Smith and Greg Slater have done such a great job, and they're completing those houses over on Nassau Street. Well, they've now gotten some properties over in Belvedere, which are in the county off of Ryle Road, that they're going to be doing that same thing. So that's really exciting, and that's Belvedere's allowing that to happen. So going back to what Cynthia's talking about, that developer says, yeah, let's make this happen. The nice thing about Belvedere is that it's new, and so you don't have the historical stuff and that kind of thing, and it's just something you have to, you just have to deal with. And I know the city has some tax incentives for renovation. It's probably not as much as Cynthia or her investor would want. But there are some ways to go about doing it. You just got to work really hard to get it through.
Both our phones are blowing up here.
Yeah.
I just got a direct message coming in for a question for you. We may not be able to get to all these comments. We are 52 minutes into the program already. Michael Guthrie, the CEO of Roy Wheeler, is killing it. We'll give some props to another sponsor of the show, Michael, Tao Insurance Services, here in Court Square, doing some fantastic things for people across our community.
I know Zenas, and he's awesome.
He's awesome.
Zenas is very involved with the Young Professional Network. We bowled together the other night. He's a super guy. But I have a warm spot in my heart for Tao Insurance because Darden Tao was a dear friend when I was living in Charlottesville before. I was here from 71 to 83. Darden was a real mentor to me. He was involved. I was involved with Young Life, working with high school kids, and he was a tremendous supporter of what I was trying to do in the city and the county schools at that particular point, and I couldn't be happier that they named that park after him. So again, it's a locally owned operation that really wants to give back to the community, and it's just one other shining example of so many like it in Charlottesville that truly want to make a difference each and every day.
This comment come in via Twitter. Jerry, I enjoy the programming. I try to tune in as much as possible. This is from Grace. She says, can you ask Mr. Guthrie the best advice he can offer for a husband and wife working with a bank to try to purchase a foreclosed home? No easy task doing that.
No. What I would recommend that you do with that, in all honesty, is talk to a realtor who can go online and search for foreclosed properties. I mean, you can certainly do it on your own as well.
Sounds like they found one and they're working.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but the point I'm making is if you go in and find the properties that are listed in the MLS for foreclosure, those listing agents work with those banks really well. I would reach out to one of them. A good person, that I'm thinking about is Julie Holbrook. Julie Holbrook is with our Roy Wheeler team, and she does a lot of those type of properties. So reach out to somebody like Julie, Rob Alley, who is another guy that does those things. You might reach out to some of them. And Bill Tucker. Yeah. Bill Tucker. Think about that. You might want to reach out to Bill Tucker at Tucker, Griffin and Barnes, because he represents some of those banks, and they know how to kind of get through the paperwork, the yellow tape, that kind of thing. Back in the day, thankfully, we don't have it much now when we were doing short sales where people were just upside down. They owed more on the house than they could sell it for. Bill, again, an entrepreneur, put together a team of people that's all they did was work on short sales. And so they have those relationships with the banks, and they might be able to help you forge through that in a way. It's tough sledding, and it's tough to do it on your own, that's for sure.
Steve Johnson says, Michael, is there a neighborhood in the city of Charlottesville that you see is still undervalued? Tough question. I think I know what you're going to say with this answer as well. And I was there last night with our buddy, our common friend.
Oh, you really?
Yeah. You know what I'm talking about?
I don't.
Matthew?
Matthew.
Yeah.
Matthew Woodson.
Gilligan.
Oh, Matthew Gilligan. That's where I was going.
Yeah.
Yeah, that Prospect Avenue area, Orangedale. Shout out to Matthew if he's watching. He just got recognized, I don't know what for, but in front of 50
got
50
the Roots
employees.
gift certificate.
Yeah, and then he disses Roots. He gets honored. He gets honored and disses Roots about the fact.
You responded on his chain. Give it to your wife.
No, the wife. No, Shannon said, "Give it to me."
Oh yeah, and you said, "I second that."
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. And I said, So Matthew, really great guy in regards to asking questions and things like that. But even Orangedale, which we've talked about before, it would have been my answer. And I guess still is my answer. I saw one selling there for $150,000 in the last a few weeks. But again, a duplex, convenient to Fifth Street Station, 64. All the different things that are going on.
5-minute Uber to downtown.
Yeah, I think and even those, again, like talking about those Louisa houses, those single family houses that are along Forest Hill and over to Cherry Avenue to Corner Restaurant, another wonderful establishment. The Templetons are super people, but I think those houses, if they were over in Fry Springs, would be more. So I would say that Cherry Avenue, Prospect, Orangedale Orange Shell Avenue area would be the places that I would look at.
All right, 100% agree. Dan Pettit watching the show of Real Estate 3. Phenomenal guests on the show today, and Michael Guthrie. Another question coming in, and this question is about, and this is going to be a tough one for you because you're such a positive guy. Is there a neighborhood in the city of Charlottesville that you feel is tremendously overvalued and should be potentially avoided? It's a good question.
Yeah.
You're a positive guy, so
Yeah.
it's a tough one for you to answer here.
I wouldn't say there are any that are to be avoided.
Okay.
But I do think you have to be careful about paying too much for a property that if the market goes down, which is another whole thing that we haven't talked about, this whole uncertainty of a recession and that kind of thing.
I have that question for you.
Yeah. I think you got to be really careful about overpaying. And so we've talked about this before, and no disrespect to it, but across from C&O, those vertical condos that are, that are
million plus.
Yeah.
3-4 levels.
Yeah. I just think that if the market drops away, that's a kind of area that it happens. Downtown Park Street,
North downtown.
North downtown is not to be avoided. It's a great place to be if you can afford it. But when you're saying you can afford it, be careful that you're not buying at the top end. I'll give you a great example of what I'm talking about. There are 2 houses, I won't mention the neighborhoods, but there are 2 houses that have sold in the last month that I was stunned that they sold. One was in a neighborhood where the highest sales price was $500, $550. It sold for $8. Now, it was incredible house, but somebody paid $250,000 more than the next person had bought. Now, that's great. If you're going to live there a long time and it's perfect for you, go for it. But if you go to sell that in a couple of years, you're in a situation where you're way above the neighborhood. And then there's another neighborhood south of town, same thing. It wasn't 8, but it was houses selling $450, $5 range, and it sold for $680 or something. Again, they've done amazing things in it. I just think you have to be careful when you do that. That one, you're going to be there for a long haul, and that you don't care. But if you're going to be there for 2 or 3 years, I would be very, very, very careful to make sure I'm making that decision the right way. Because if I have to sell that and I can't rent it, then I'm putting myself in harm's way. 2
questions coming from me. When do you see the new construction momentum slowing down, which would then help someone that does not have a newly constructed home take their home to market and potentially sell their home at a higher dollar?
So if you look at the third quarter market report, it's interesting, and it's just a blip, and we'll have to wait and see, but building permits were down in the third quarter.
Okay.
Building permits are down. At some point, things coming out of the ground are going to be down, which could impact that. I've been surprised, quite honestly, that it has stayed as active and as vibrant as possible, because when you talk to the builders, cost of materials is higher, cost of labor, getting labor has been really tough, and so for them to build the number of houses they want to build, it's not as much as they don't want to build them, and it's not that they don't have people who want to buy them to live in them. It's because they don't have enough labor force to get them done in the timely fashion. And so the extension of how long it's going to be before you can move into it has expanded. We're well into 2020 for some of the builders in regards to if you went to them and said, I want you to build me a house, they're going to tell you, it's going to be, and if you want to be in something sooner than that, that could ultimately impact the new construction. But I am surprised that with the cost of materials, cost of labor, I would have thought that we'd begin to see a little bit of a slowdown just because of prices. I mean, median price $468. That's a lot of money. That's
so
just
you
the
see
median.
it slowing.
I think it will.
Yeah.
It will slow for those reasons. I was talking to somebody yesterday, and their chief economist was telling me that that yes, they see that there's a recession coming, which people have been talking about for a while, but they don't see it coming till at least the end of the year of next year.
Yeah, so a lot of folks that, and you follow this closely, I try to follow this closely as well. A lot of folks are saying this post November election in 2020. We could potentially see it depending on who wins. Is that what you're hearing?
Yeah, that's exactly what I've heard from this very reputable company, and their economist is saying that. I think National Association of Realtors, although I haven't heard Lawrence Yun speak about it lately, I think that's pretty consistent. Again, we've got an uncertainty in the market, in the economy. One sense you hear about China and all these vacant buildings and things like that, but then again this morning I heard that they have a new billionaire every 3 days or something, something extraordinary, and their money obviously is coming into our economy, and that's why the tariff thing is such a big deal, and that's why when they a couple days ago made the noise about the fact that was working out, all of a sudden the stock market broke the record for the highest it's ever been. That can't continue. We do go in cycles, and so it's one of those things where you just have to really pay attention. And one of the things that we learned through my health challenges is it's not about today, it's about the trend. So when you're sick and you have a temperature one day, okay, no big deal. But if you have a temperature the second day and the third day it's a little higher, now you got a trend that is a concern to you. Or vice versa. It's going down and the trend. Well, same thing with the economy. You got to be paying attention not just today, but overall. Are there trends that you're noticing? Again, Fed, lowered the rate and said, okay, we're good at this particular point. You got to watch those kind of things for the trend of the next time and the next time, and then that's when you start getting an idea of what you can expect, longer term.
What's the advice you give to a family to prepare for? Why don't we close on that?
Yep.
If it's on the horizon, if we're a year and change potentially, what's the advice you give to a family to prepare?
So again, I think if you need to refinance now. Get to a lower monthly payment so that you've got as low an interest rate as you can get to sort of store your acorns in your cheek and make it through. Get that payment down so that if you did have to move and you couldn't sell it because the market has changed you can rent that again. Really watch your budget. Right now. Watch your budget. Are there things that you're spending money on that you don't need to spend on? And just take that $60 this or $40 that and just put it someplace for a rainy day, and just begin to put yourself in a position of not living the high life, but live the medium life, and go out to dinner one time less, and just put that money in. Drink one less Starbucks or Shenandoah Joe's or Grit or whoever you want to. I want to make sure Java, all those folks. Drink one of those less a week, and just put that $5 someplace, and just have that rainy day fund. So if it happens, you're in a position where one, you're going to make it through, and two, you may get some neat opportunities because prices go down, and you've saved this money, and your credit report's good, and you can go and buy a house 2 years from now that you couldn't buy at the price today.
Good advice.
So,
an hour and 3 minutes, easy.
Yeah, no, it's so much fun to talk about it, and I'm passionate about what we're talking about, and I think it's important. I mean, the reason my radio show is called Real Estate Matters is because real estate matters in all things. Yeah. Somebody buys a house, you buy a house, you got to buy curtains, you got to buy TV, you got to buy such and such. The whole economy wins in that situation. Taxes come in. We talked about West Main Street. We can talk all about the fact that some people don't like it, it's ugly, whatever, but the amount of tax dollars that are coming in there. I read an article the other day with what's going on behind Blue Moon Diner. That's going to be great to have them reopened. And
they are?
Oh, they are reopened
now.
Okay, great. And but the tax base that's coming in behind them, that wasn't there.
Right.
Which hopefully is going to allow the city to do extraordinary things in regards to affordable housing. And the key is having people in place that are going to make wise decisions and use that money well and not just frit it away. And then all of a sudden we have a downturn and we don't have that same financial ability to do things we need to do.
You and I could talk, I think, an entire day on trends in Charlottesville. I encourage anyone that's watching the program to tune into 1070 WINA on Saturday mornings at 10 a.m.
Yep. Not this Saturday. I've given my way to Antonio and Jay James and those guys because the pregame is at 12 to 12:30, so I get exempted. But next week will be a great show. David Murata, from Murata Financial, is going to give his sort of involvement as far as the economy and what to expect and that kind of thing. And but it's fun. Started doing that. Thought I was going to do it for a year. I've been doing it 11 years now. And
Award-winning.
Award-winning. Who would have guessed?
Award-winning. Yeah. I'm going to take my little boy and my wife to the UVA Georgia Tech game on Saturday. Go Hoos. Thank you kindly.
Dress warmly.
It's going to be chilly. Yeah. It's going to be chilly. I enjoyed this, Michael.
Yeah, me too. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Keith and Yonna Smith, the Yes Team Realtors. They are the presenting sponsor of Real Talk. If you need a real estate team to help you buy or sell a home, Keith and Yonna Smith and the Yes Team Realtors. This is Real Talk on the I Love Seville Network, Friday mornings from 10:15 to about 11:20 this particular morning. Enjoy your morning, guys. Take care.
Awesome. Yeah, so easy. Yeah.